I wasn't planning to speak today. I actually tried to ignore this warning at first because I know what happens every time I open my mouth about this realm. But February 11th would not leave me alone. It followed me into my prayers, into my dreams, into moments where I was doing ordinary things. And suddenly my spirit would tighten. And I need you to listen very carefully to me because this is not entertainment. This is not drama. And this is not something you scroll past and come back to later. There are people watching me right now who have been under spiritual attack for years and could never explain why their life kept stalling at the same point. You changed jobs, changed relationships, changed locations, even changed churches, and still the same patterns followed you. And you thought it was bad luck. You thought it was your own mistakes, but it wasn't. I need you to understand something about me before I go any further. I am not guessing. I am not repeating something I heard from someone else. I lived inside this world. I understand how assignments are released, how words are used as weapons, how access is gained through agreement, and how spiritual doors are kept open because people don't realize they are speaking the wrong things over their own lives. When I walked away from witchcraft, I didn't forget what I learned. I was delivered from it, but I still remember the language. And that's why this warning is urgent. February 11th is not just a date, it is a checkpoint. In the spirit, it marks a shift where old assignments either lose their power or get reinforced, depending on what you do with your mouth. And this is where many people fail without realizing it. They pray long prayers, they fast, they cry, but they keep saying the wrong words. And words are legal documents in the spirit realm. I remember when I was still deep in witchcraft, we didn't fear people who prayed loudly. We feared people who spoke precisely. We feared people who knew how to close doors instead of begging for relief. There are witches assigned to monitor certain bloodlines, families, and destinies, not because you are weak, but because you are dangerous. And the goal is never just to hurt you. The goal is to exhaust you, confuse you, delay you, and make you doubt yourself until you sabotage your own calling. Some of you watching me right now have felt watched your entire life. You couldn't explain it. You just knew that every time you were about to rise, something unseen pushed back. Sudden arguments, sudden sickness, sudden financial loss, sudden distractions that made no sense. And you blamed people in the natural, not realizing the real battle was never flesh and blood. February 11th is significant because it exposes agreements. And hear me when I say this, witches do not need to touch you to affect you. They need agreement. Agreement can come through fear. Agreement can come through hopelessness. Agreement can come through words like, this always happens to me, or I'll never get out of this, or this is just my life. Every time you say those things, you are renewing a contract you didn't even know you signed. I want to tell you a story because stories reveal what teachings sometimes can't. There was a woman I once knew, brilliant, gifted, called to lead. Every time she got close to breakthrough, she would suddenly feel heavy, depressed, and tired for no medical reason. In witchcraft, we would call that a successful draining assignment. Nothing dramatic, no chaos, just slow exhaustion until the person gave up on their own dream. And the spirits assigned to her weren't powerful because of their own strength. They were powerful because of her silence and her words of resignation. When I left that life, God showed me something that shook me. He showed me that most people don't need deliverance from demons as much as they need deliverance from the words they've been speaking for years. And this is where February 11th comes in. There are three words, just three, that shut down monitoring spirits, weaken witchcraft, assignments, and remove legal access, not because the words themselves are magical, but because of what they represent in the spirit. Witches hate them. They don't argue with them. They don't negotiate with them. They retreat when they are spoken with understanding. But before I release them, I need you to grasp this. These words are not a chant. They are not something you say casually. They are a declaration of authority. And authority only works when you believe you have it. Some of you were raised to think you are always under attack, always vulnerable, always at the mercy of whatever is sent your way. That belief alone has kept doors open longer than any spell ever could. February 11th is a moment of choice. Either you keep fighting battles you were never meant to fight manually, or you step into a position where certain attacks stop being allowed around you. I can feel the resistance even as I'm speaking. That tells me I'm touching the right place. Whenever truth starts to expose how powerless darkness really is, it reacts. I need you to stay with me. I'm going to explain why these three words work, how witches recognize them instantly, and why speaking them before February 11th carries a different weight than after. This is not about fear. This is about clarity. And clarity is what ends cycles. If you've ever felt like something unseen was leaning on your life, if you've ever sensed that your delays didn't match your effort, don't leave. This message is not an accident, and this is only the beginning. If you are still here, that tells me something about you. It tells me this message is already brushing against your spirit, even if your mind is still trying to analyze it. That's normal. Truth always hits the spirit before it convinces the intellect. And what I need to say next is not comfortable, but it is necessary because comfort has kept too many people bound. I want you to understand how witches actually listen. They don't listen with ears the way you do. They listen for permission. They listen for openings. They listen for moments when someone unknowingly lowers their guard by what they believe and what they speak. This is why some of you notice that attacks intensified during emotional lows, during grief, during burnout, during moments when you felt unseen or unprotected. Those were not random seasons. Those were moments of vulnerability that were observed when I was still in that world. We were trained to wait, not rush, not panic. Just wait. Wait for discouragement. Wait for repeated disappointment. Wait for a person to say, even once, I'm tired of fighting. Or maybe this is just how it's supposed to be. Those sentences mattered more than hours of prayer, spoken without belief, because words reveal agreement. And here is what most people don't realize: silence can be agreement too. When you know something is wrong, but you never confront it, never challenge it, never speak against it. That silence becomes permission. Darkness thrives where there is no resistance. This is why February 11th is so critical. It is not about fear of what witches are doing. It is about awareness of what you are allowing. Around this time, assignments are reviewed, access is checked, doors are tested. And if nothing pushes back, those doors remain open longer than they should. Some of you have been praying for protection while still speaking defeat. You ask God to bless your finances, then tell everyone you're always broke. You ask for peace, then declare daily how anxious you are. You ask for open doors, then keep saying nothing ever works out for you. And I say this with love, not condemnation, because I lived this truth from the other side. Those contradictions cancel authority. I need to say this very clearly. Witches are not afraid of emotional Christianity. They are afraid of authority Christianity. They are afraid of believers who know when to stop begging and start declaring. They are afraid of people who understand that the mouth is a gate. This is why the three words I mentioned are so dangerous to them. These words do not scream. They do not threaten. They do not chase demons around the room. They simply remove legal rights. And when legal right is removed, everything attached to it collapses on its own. I remember the first time I heard these words spoken against an assignment I was part of. There was no dramatic scene, no shouting, no chaos. But in the spirit, it felt like hitting a wall I could not cross. Access was gone. Monitoring was blocked. Influence was severed. And that person never even knew how close they were to destruction. That's the part that humbles me. Even now, some of you are alive, sane, and still standing only because someone somewhere spoke the right thing at the right time, even though you never saw the battle. And now it's your turn to learn how to do the same. February 11th is not about witches gaining power. It is about them losing it where authority is exercised correctly. That's why fear-based teaching never helps you. Fear feeds the very thing you're trying to escape. Calm authority starves it. I need you to hear this next part carefully because this is where many people misunderstand spiritual warfare. Warfare is not obsession. Warfare is not constantly talking about demons. Warfare is alignment. When you align your words with truth, certain attacks simply cannot stay. This is why the enemy works so hard to keep you distracted, tired, and emotionally overwhelmed. A worn down believer forgets to guard their mouth, and an unguarded mouth is an open door. Some of you have noticed strange dreams lately, old faces reappearing, old temptations resurfacing, old memories stirring emotions you thought were healed. That's not coincidence. That's a check for access, a test to see if emotional doors can reopen what spiritual deliverance already closed. Do not panic. Panic is agreement. Awareness is authority. The three words I'm about to release in the next part are not new. They are ancient. They are rooted in truth that existed long before witchcraft ever learned how to counterfeit power. Darkness copied authority. It did not invent it. But here's the warning. Once you speak these words with understanding, you cannot go back to casual speech. You cannot keep declaring defeat over your life and expect authority to remain intact. Authority is maintained, not just activated. Some of you are about to experience a sudden quiet in your life. Fewer disruptions, less resistance, less unexplained heaviness. And you might mistake that quiet for boredom or emptiness if you're not careful. But that quiet is peace returning where noise once lived. I need you to stay grounded, stay watchful, not fearful, but aware. Now I will speak the three words and explain exactly how to use them, when to speak them, and what changes to expect afterward. And when I do, I want you to remember this. These words do not kill people. They kill influence. They kill access. They kill assignments that were never supposed to have power over you in the first place. Stay with me. You're closer to freedom than you think. I need you to slow your breathing for a moment, not because something bad is about to happen, but because clarity requires stillness. Everything I've said up to this point was preparing you for this moment. And preparation matters. Authority without understanding turns into performance. Understanding without action turns into delay. What I'm about to share only works when both meet. I want to remind you again, this is not about harming people. Darkness works through people, but it is not people. What ends witchcraft influence is not aggression, it is alignment. And alignment always exposes what does not belong. The three words I warned you about are simple, almost too simple. That's why people overlook them. Witchcraft loves complexity. It thrives on confusion, rituals, layers, and secrecy. Authority loves simplicity. Truth doesn't need decoration. The words are no more access. That's it. No shouting, no fear, no explanation required. When spoken with understanding, those three words shut doors that prayers alone sometimes don't, because prayers ask, but authority declares, and witches understand declaration immediately. They don't argue with it. They don't test it twice. They withdraw when it's real. Let me explain why. Everything in the spirit realm operates on permission, not emotion, not effort. Permission. Access is granted through agreement. And agreement is most often verbal. When you say no more access, you are not speaking to witches. You are addressing the legal framework that allowed interference in the first place. And once access is revoked, assignments lose oxygen. I've seen spells fail not because someone prayed louder, but because someone finally stopped agreeing with what was happening to them. The moment you stop saying this always happens to me and replace it with no, more access, something shifts. Not emotionally, legally, but I need to be honest with you because honesty keeps you free. These words are not a one-time fix. If your daily speech keeps reopening doors, you cannot declare no more access and then continue speaking death over your own future. That's like locking the front door and leaving every window open. This is why February 11th matters so much. Around this time, old permissions are reviewed, old patterns are checked, and when nothing resists, they continue. But when resistance is present, when authority is spoken, those cycles end quietly. Not dramatically, quietly. Some of you expected fireworks, manifestations, emotional highs. That's not how real authority works. Real authority feels calm, grounded, settled. And that calm is unfamiliar to people who have lived in spiritual noise for years. You might notice something strange after this. Certain people may stop calling, certain conflicts may dissolve without explanation, certain temptations may lose their pull, certain fears may no longer have a voice, and your mind may try to tell you nothing happened. Don't listen to that voice. Silence is often the sound of victory. Now I need to tell you how to speak these words properly. You do not speak them angrily. Anger reveals struggle. You speak them firmly, clearly, and calmly. You don't need to repeat them obsessively. Obsession is fear. You speak them when you sense pressure, interference, heaviness, or confusion that does not belong. You speak them when old cycles try to resurface. You speak them when your peace is challenged without cause, and then you move on. This is the part people struggle with. They want to keep checking if it worked. They want confirmation. They want signs. But authority doesn't chase validation. Authority assumes compliance. When I left witchcraft, one of the hardest things for me to unlearn was how much power I thought darkness had. That illusion shattered when I saw how quickly influence collapsed once access was removed. Darkness is not powerful, it is opportunistic. Some of you have been blaming witches for things that were actually sustained by your own hopeless words. That's not condemnation, that's empowerment. Because what you helped open, you can close. I want you to understand something deeply before I finish. You were never meant to fight everything. You were meant to govern what enters your life. That's a higher position. And February 11th is a reminder of that position. If attacks intensify briefly, after this, don't panic. Sometimes resistance flares when access is challenged for the last time. But it does not last where authority stands firm. Do not engage emotionally. Do not spiral mentally. Simply return to alignment. No more access. Say it over your peace. Say it over your mind. Say it over your household. Say it over your calling. Not loudly, not desperately, just truthfully. Some of you are about to realize that the battle you thought you were losing ended a long time ago. You just didn't know you were allowed to stop fighting. Let the noise fade. Let the pressure lift. Let the cycles close. And if this message found you, it wasn't by accident. It was because the door was ready to